everyone to the Ask an Architect show. Here with me today, Jared Krieger. Jared, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited to have Jared on. I've known Jared for several years now, but Jared comes from Gensler and significant body of work over at Gensler in a lot of different scenarios that I'd like to walk through with him to hopefully add some value for you guys. So, Jared, I want to go through some of the more interesting parts of your path, but before I do, there's kind of a burning question that everybody behind the camera is asking right now. People want to know, how do I get a job at Gensler? What is the secret? What is the key ingredient? What are you guys looking for when you're hiring right now?
Sure, you gotta differentiate yourself. You gotta do something different. You gotta have a portfolio that just jumps off the page at us. So, great graphics, really well polished, even just the way it's delivered to us. I remember I had a professor in school tell us this story about he wasn't hiring, but somebody came in with this like beautifully crafted wood box with like individual pages of hand. This was older, just hand-drawn stuff, and he was like, I just had to hire him because the box was like so clever and so well delivered and really represented him.
Yep.
So we see, like, I don't know, we get hundreds of resumes and portfolios.
Makes sense.
And
I
it's
believe
hard to, aside from someone who knows somebody bringing it to my attention, it's kind of hard to stand out. So just something that has really, really well polished, really clever graphics. We're in the digital world, so it's hard to have that kind of box that you're delivering. But if you get to an interview, having something that's just better than that sort of shiny leafed binder is a good way to stand out.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, everybody's got beautiful portfolios and beautiful work now, and everybody's learning all the graphic tools, so you got to figure out some unique way of packaging or presenting, or at least getting it in front of people's eyeballs in a little bit of a unique fashion.
Yeah, usually when they come in, our HR group will email them to people that they think they could fit in which studio for which type of work, or descriptions that we've given them for the type of person we're looking for, and then, if we give them a quick thumbs up or not, then that goes to our hiring committee, and we meet every Monday now, and we'll literally look through the printed portfolios, everybody around the table, and we sort of mark yes for an interview or let's consider later. And
so it's an ongoing process.
Oh yeah, always. And a lot of times, even if we're not hiring for this specific position, sometimes we'll put it in a pile that says like let's follow up with this person.
Like a wait list.
So yeah, because this person seems like a real standout person, but we just might not have a position at the time.
Sure. So once you do get hired at Gensler, what's it like behind the doors? What's the culture like? You're here in the DC office, but I mean, the company as a whole. What's it like to work there?
I think it's sometimes from the outside looking in, it could seem overwhelming, but I think a lot of people are surprised about how much of a family we are and how small the firm actually can be. You're placed in a studio, and that's usually anywhere from 25 to 40 people. Those are the people that you get the closest with, and you're paired up with a buddy right away, and you get to go to lunch on your first day with the buddy and do some of the HR stuff. There's technical experts within the studio, there's design leaders within the studio, and they're all sort of there to support you. And I think a lot of people find that they have an amazing amount of support, and it's very easy to find some people that they can look up to in the firm just from their first day there.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because Gensler probably knows that it's this huge, massive firm. It's got to condense the way it feels and the comfort for its employees.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. Your path at Gensler, you've been there, a little over 10 years now?
Yeah.
So lots of different things I imagine you've done. Kind of walk me through the last 10 years. What are some of the highlights? Just give me some of the, what was the most unique part of the early part of your career, the middle part, and where you are now? Just some of the highlights.
Well, I think just the diversity of projects. So from a project basis, the amazing thing about a big firm is there's just a large variety of projects. So we say we do everything from a wine label to the second tallest building in the world, and kind of everything in between.
Yep.
I've done things from master planning to interior architecture to a stadium in South America to the Tyson's Tower in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, to just a couple of huge headquarter projects right now, and even living in Spain for a year on an airport project. So it's been...
I want to get into that, but that's a lot of variety. So you haven't specialized in any way, shape, or form, really.
Yeah,
or have you?
well, and you can kind of plan your path there at
Okay.
Gensler. There's a lot of different ways, and that's one thing that's attracted me so much to Gensler is that the sky's the limit. If you're passionate about something, if you want to specialize, if you want to be that person who's really focusing on tall buildings or sports projects or corporate interiors, you really can specialize and focus in on that. I've been the person who's gravitated towards the technical side of things. I think I'm a good designer, but I'm surrounded by really good designers
Sure.
who are better
Yeah.
at it than me, and I think we gel well, and I like to start on a project early with and be partnered with people like that, and then carry them all the way through construction. So I like larger architecture projects, core and shell type projects. So those
Okay.
are the big projects that I've just gravitated towards in my career.
So you mentioned Spain. I want to get into that a little bit because at Gensler, lots of opportunities, particularly abroad. It sounds like you took advantage of one really unique opportunity. Tell me about it from start to finish. How did you get on that project? Why did you advocate to be on that project? What was it like when you were there? And what are your thoughts now that you've been back here for a while?
Yeah, it's amazing to see just the global breadth of the firm.
Sure.
And DC in general is just a pretty international city, so
Sure.
we touch a lot of international projects in the DC office. And I was just finishing a stadium in South America, and I went to lunch with the partner who was overseeing the project, and we were literally just talking about the stadium, and I joke around that this is sort of how he hooked me, and we didn't even talk about the Spain opportunity or this project at all. And we were just walking back to the office after lunch, and I jokingly said that Spain thing sounded interesting, and I was half joking and half interested. And I think that was when he realized he had me hooked.
Yeah.
And then we talked about what it was and what the position he was looking to fill, because I knew he was looking to fill a position for the project. And we had a team in DC, we had a team in Santander, Spain.
Okay.
And the project was in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where we also had a small team.
So Spain was merely a staging ground.
That's correct.
Essentially.
Yeah. It was a big design-build partnership, and our engineering partners were in a firm in northern Spain, and we basically shared space in their office with them. And it was part of the project requirement that the design had to be led out of Spain because it was a closer time zone to Saudi Arabia.
So walk me through the technical logistics of that. You're with an American firm working out of a Spanish office on a project in Saudi Arabia. So what are some of the primary challenges that poses?
Communication, technology, and even just the small things in your life that you just don't think about going into that. My wife moved with me. We had to get visas. We had to go through that whole process.
Yep.
We had to deal with renting our house. We had to deal with packing everything up. We had to find Gensler helps with a lot of that stuff and find a place to live in Spain. And you've got no friends. We're in a small city in Spain where there are no Americans. They don't speak English there.
It's a great point.
And your friends are the 6 other Gensler colleagues, whether you like it or not, on your team. So you're sitting with them at work all day, and then you ride home with them in the car.
Yep.
You want to go to happy hour, you're going with those 6 people. You want to go to a vineyard. You want to go to on a tour of the North Coast. You're generally asking your colleagues because you got to borrow the car.
Yep.
So there's a lot of that like it's hard to have those personal boundaries, and we got really close. I still talk to all of them, or a lot of them now, and a few of the younger ones have gone back to school since then, and it's just an amazingly positive experience. And then from the technology side, everything's in Revit nowadays, and we have our BIM model, and we've got engineers sitting with us that had never really used Revit before, so we're teaching the engineers how to use it at the same time.
Okay.
We've got a team in DC that's working on it.
Okay.
And to have a project that large with 6 Revit models, all bound together, working across time zones and across the Atlantic Ocean, and we at Gensler have our own technology platform that we call Workspace. It's kind of like what Autodesk has for their cloud-based models for team sharing, but it's an infrastructure we've built on our own, so we can put our custom tools on there and control the speed of it. And it was just, we were beta testing software with companies that didn't even, it was sort of pre-beta testing of software just to sort of get this technology up to speed.
What about language barrier at all? Was there an issue in Spain versus, I guess, Arabic in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, there was people from Ireland, people from Germany, people from France, people
Sure.
from Saudi Arabia. There was a whole bunch of different languages spoken at any given moment. Now, amazingly, one of the hardest things in the project was just setting up a go-to meeting. was the technology and
Yep.
the landlines at the airport in Saudi Arabia.
Sure.
But the language was definitely a challenge. But when you're in a model and you're spinning it around and you're looking at ductwork and the architecture coming together, that sort of transcends a lot of languages
Sure.
to sort of visually see
Makes
what
sense.
you're building, as opposed to me trying to say the duct and the beam just don't work together. But
Yeah.
when you can show it in a model, that makes a
Yeah.
huge difference.
You mentioned the platform you guys are using. So you're using a custom platform that you all have developed, I guess, over the course of time that really reacts to how you guys do projects. Speak to how Gensler innovates like that. I mean, are there other areas where they've really pushed the envelope, and is that how they stay at the forefront of design, among firms, by creating new tools and new opportunities to make their design better?
Yeah, by nature of our size, we have the ability to do some things
Sure.
like that. So we've got a great technology group that does lots of research and sort of tinkers with these things, and we have a lot of custom scripts that are written for our platform in Revit and Rhino and Grasshopper and some of that stuff that we can use internally and share with our partners. That just makes our process even better. From like the little things in Revit that annoy you to the really big things of how do you work on a team that has 12 Gensler offices on a huge project in South America, and then things like AV and virtual reality and augmented reality, and that's really changing how we communicate with our clients and our design process. Someone was asking me the other day if technology is sort of killing the design profession, and I was like, well, you just have to kind of keep up, and you gotta sift through the technology, and you can't just adopt everything that comes out. But if you're strategic about it, it can completely change the way that you're communicating with your clients and you're presenting your designs. And when you can immerse your client in an environment with the goggles, and they've been looking at renderings for a while and they really like the design, but there's just not that emotional response. And the second they put the goggles on and they're looking around, that's just an amazing emotional reaction from a client.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think the VR side of architecture is pretty intuitive. People understand the value there and looking around and getting a sense of spaces and aesthetics. But what about AR and the augmented side? What things are you guys doing or looking at to use AR to help advance your design strategy? Is it essentially applying BIM into the VR world, or how does AR have an angle here?
I think it has a couple of different angles. Well, some of it is like, well, what will the future of the workspace even look like? Like, do you even need a monitor anymore? Like, we're experimenting with a workstations where you don't really need a monitor anymore. You put those on, and all of a sudden, all your displays are in front of you.
Yeah.
And some of our projects where if it's a shell space, you could walk through with a client and say, okay, well, here's where the walls are going to be in your space. Here's what the layout is. And you could literally walk through with the client, and a couple of clients could have them on at the same time.
Yep.
And you could literally walk through the space that you're going to build out before they even build it out.
Yeah, so it sounds like Gensler is committed to exploring that technology and moving forward. That's fascinating.
And a lot of that is sort of grassroots stuff. Like, we encourage a lot of the younger folks in our firm to just, if you think it's awesome and it's going to be good for the design and it's going to be good for the people around you and we're going to learn from it. Like, we have research grants that we give people, we have innovation grants that we give people, and a lot of that stuff is because a young guy on one of the teams was like, hey, I'd love to do virtual reality on this project. It's like, can I experiment with it? Like, of course you can experiment with it.
That's awesome. It sounds like there's an entrepreneurial, kind of petri dish that you guys offer to your employees, and particularly the newer folks coming out of school, that really is a unique opportunity that not a lot of firms probably have the resources or the strategy to apply something like that. So
absolutely, and that's one of the things that's attracted me to Gensler most, was just I was young in my career, and the sky's the limit. You don't really feel like you're in a big firm and you're going to get lost. I've never felt that way in this firm, and you're just always encouraged, from volunteering with organizations like NCARB where we met to doing research, to trying different ways to come up with designs and building models and 3D printing. It's as long as it's good for the design and good for the people around you, you're rarely going to get a no against it.
And that's probably why you've been there for 10 years.
Yep.
That probably keeps you coming in day after day, excited, motivated, enthusiastic. So, Jared, just to wrap up here, we kind of talked about students here at the end that, new folks coming in can really be entrepreneurial, can really sink their teeth into something that they're personally interested in.
Yep.
You graduated from Drexel, right?
Yes.
Up in Philly. So we have a lot of folks who are finishing up their last year of school here. They'll be graduating this coming May. What advice would you give to somebody who's on the doorstep of graduation? Looking at potentially their first job, potentially a new city somewhere, new specialization. What advice would you give?
I would say find something you're really excited about, because if it doesn't work out, you're young and you can always try something different. And don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable and admit you don't really know a heck of a lot and you're just starting out, because that's good. It's good to sort of be open and willing to learn and be a sponge, and that's definitely something I'm looking for. I love when I interview somebody who has confidence, who's really looking to work hard and participate in great design and be innovative. But someone who's clearly starting out in their career and is looking for an opportunity, but doesn't quite sort of know what they want, but sort of tries to hide that.
Yep.
That's you're more transparent than you think. But being open-minded and willing to sort of explore new opportunities is definitely something that's appealing to me.
Great advice, Jared. Great advice. Well, Jared, I think you've given us a nice, kind of a deep snapshot as to what it's like behind the doors at Gensler, maybe how to get in the door at Gensler. And I appreciate your time. I think you have a fascinating story, and I'm sure people would love to learn more. But for now, we're going to call it quits here. And Jared, thanks so much again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time on the Ask an Architect show.